Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I know I look a little weird right now because I have like half my makeup on, but today I wanted to do my current favorite drugstore foundation routine. So I'm going to be discussing all the products lately that I've been using to do a really snatched, matte, very long wearing foundation. If you want to continue watching, then please go ahead and do so. Okay, so now that we are close and personal, we can begin this foundation routine. So first things first, I want to go ahead and start off with some primer. For moisturizer, I used my typical First Aid Beauty moisturizer. Honestly guys, I do not have a favorite drugstore cream right now that I've been using, something that I can say, oh, this is what you need. So now we're gonna move on to primer. So this primer actually changed my life. You guys recently recommended this to me and I went and got it and I've been wearing it non-stop. The Revlon Photo Ready Primer. This is actually the pore reducing primer. You guys always hear me talk on my channel about how I want something that's gonna be good for pore minimizing because I do have some enlarged pores right here. And this one, OMG, changed my life. But it made me really happy that I was able to find a really good drugstore priced pore minimizing primer because it's very hard to find a really good primer at the drugstore, especially because I'm always constantly getting things from Sephora or Ulta that are a little bit more expensive. So it was nice to try this. Now Revlon is more of like the higher price products at the drugstore, but if you go to Walmart, you can definitely get this for a little bit cheaper than you could at CVS, Ulta, or any other drugstore. So what I like to do is I like to just put it on the back of my hand like that. And one of the things that I like about this primer is that it goes on so smooth. Not only does it really reduce your pores, but I feel like it also kind of, in a way, gets rid of any unwanted shine, especially if you are somebody that has oily skin and kind of wants to get rid of the shine. Do you see how the difference between this side to this side that has a little bit of radiance peeking through? I just really like that about it. I feel like ever since I started wearing this, my foundation just looks so beautiful for a very long time. So I was like, this stuff is like my new baby. And it just made me so happy that it was something that I could find that was on a budget, because I know that a lot of times, you know, our priority isn't to spend $35 on a primer. You know, we have other things to pay. So I totally get it. I feel like a lot of times people kind of think, oh, primer doesn't really do anything, just skip the primer, whatever. But primer really is what creates that very long wearing like starting point for the foundation. So whenever I'm really going for a super perfected look, this is what I use. Okay, so now for foundation, I'm going to be mixing two, which is probably what you guys want to see the most. And this is the LA Girl Pro Matte, and this is the NYX Can't Stop, Won't Stop foundation. Another one that I really am obsessed with right now, but I literally just reviewed it, so I kind of want to show you what I've been wearing like the past few months, as opposed to something that I just started wearing, is the Makeup Revolution one. Really good too, like really good. And I have to give it to Drugstore for making some really good makeup lately. Like I've just been so amazed with the quality and just how good the foundations feel and how well they compare to products that are really pricey in the market. So I'm just like, you're killing it. I also have to give NYX major props for making such a large shade range with Alyssa Ashley. I think it's absolutely amazing that they teamed up with her and really expanded the collection. They have colors for everybody and I think it's fantastic. Okay, so now let's just get rid of this crazy situation, because right now with only having shadow and brows, it looks kind of twisted. I like to use both of these. The LA Girl Pro Matte is a nice, very matte foundation. It definitely is more of a thicker consistency than the NYX Can't Stop, Won't Stop. I've noticed that. I feel like when you do mix them together, you get that perfect like in-between consistency if you're looking for more of that full coverage. The reason I like to mix these, to be completely honest, is because I feel like this one is a little tiny bit darker than what I'm used to, and this one right now for me is a little too light. The LA Girl one is in the color Light Tan, and the NYX one is in the color Golden. So I feel like mixing them together gives me the perfect like happy medium, because it's not too thick but it's not too like runny. Also I feel like The consistency of the LA Girl one is a little bit more of like a clay-like consistency, as opposed to the NYX one I feel like is more moisturizing. So here I have them on top of each other, and then I just kind of take my finger and just kind of blend it out, as you can see, like that. And then I just begin dotting it. So I just dot it all over. This should be enough to last for the whole face. That's why I like to pump a good amount of both of them. Now I'm going to be taking my Morphe Highlight and Contour Sponge, which you guys always see me use if you do watch my foundation reviews. This is also another affordable drugstore product. You can find this at Ulta. I know Ulta carries the sponges as well. Ulta does carry Morphe, but sometimes they don't have like the whole situation that you can find on their website or at a Morphe store. But I think it's really good that they have the sponges there, because I'm always restocking. Do you see that coverage? That is coverage. A little bit more of the forehead. The forehead, I don't really like to use that much product, because my forehead, like I mentioned before, is pretty evened out, so you don't have to go in there and be crazy with it. I also like these two foundations mixed together because they do not dry fast. I know with some foundations, as soon as you put it on, you need to like blend it out fast, or else it's gonna dry and it's not gonna move and it's gonna settle and it's just gonna be a hot mess. These foundations work together very nicely because you can leave them on, like I left it on the forehead, for like a few minutes and it's still gonna blend out perfectly great. If you only have one foundation, don't think, oh my gosh, she used both, I need to go out and use both. You don't have to. I'm just saying that these two foundations I found are really, really good, nice matte foundations that I've constantly been using whenever I'm not on camera for a drugstore finish. So don't think, oh, I need to go get this, because you definitely don't need to get both of them. They're both really good alone, but they're just as good together. That's the point I'm trying to make. Love the way this comes together. And I feel like the primer also does such a good job of really keeping that pigmentation. Sometimes foundations can have a very sheer finish, but this primer is kind of like the Tatcha that really like intensifies the foundation and the color and the texture of how it just goes on. That is just a really good finish overall in the end. And then see, I literally used all the product that I needed to use, and I have a little bit extra. So what I like to do when I have extra is I don't even use my finger, because I find that me using the finger kind of shears it out. So I just put it right directly onto the sponge, and I go in any little areas where I feel like there may be a little tiny bit of redness left over, and I start to kind of blend it in. Okay, so now the next step I like to do is take my Airspun Powder. You can find this at Walmart for like $5. It's brilliant. And then I go in with a brush. I'm gonna be taking my Morphe brush, and I'm just going to be going over the areas where I may get a little bit oily. So kind of around my brows, like in this direction. Then down the bridge of my nose. Also the chin, right here, just dusting some powder on there. And then for our smile lines, because I tend to always get really, really oily on there when I don't have the right stuff on my face, I like to go in and bake. I'm gonna be taking my other Morphe sponge that I like to use for baking, and I'm just gonna take a little bit of the powder, and I'm just going to do a little bit of a light layer. You don't want to use too much because the foundation is nice and matte, so you don't want it to cling onto your foundation, but you just want enough to where it'll give you that perfected finish. We're gonna leave that between 3 to 5 minutes just so that it can really like stay in there and lock in and get rid of any oils that may want to peek through later in the day. Okay, so now it looks super duper crazy, but it's okay because it takes a process to get to that beautiful stage. So I went ahead and did my concealer. I wasn't sure if I wanted to show that on camera or not, so I didn't, but in case you're wondering, because this is a drugstore foundation routine, I wanted to go ahead and go in with one of my favorite drugstore products. This is a ColourPop concealer. It's drugstore price. ColourPop is very, very affordable, but I think their concealer is absolutely amazing, and it has great coverage. It's very creamy, very easy to blend, and it's just fantastic. This is in the shade medium, and it's definitely one of my favorites. So right now we're gonna go ahead and dust off the powder. We're gonna start off down here because it's been sitting here the longest. And what I like to do to really kind of get that powder off is just kind of like blend it in circular motions so that it's not clinging on. But not only that, it does a really good job of making sure that these areas don't get oily fast, because you guys know if you watch my foundation reviews, it's always these smile lines that always get the oiliest the fastest. So I just kind of drag it down first, and then I start to blend it in circular motions to kind of really disperse out that bake. Then we go in with our under eye and just dust that all the way off. I just love how these two foundations work together because they don't make the powder cling onto the skin. You guys know that I'm always checking when I do foundation reviews to make sure that whatever foundation I'm trying out, it works well with my baking, because baking is very essential for me. If you guys don't know, baking is what helps the under eyes not crease. My eyes crease like crazy when I don't bake. So I always have to bake, especially if I want that perfect finish on my under eyes and I want it to look completely snatched. Now we're gonna move on to bronzer and blush and highlight. Those are the only things we have left to do. Because I didn't do the concealer and I felt really bad for not doing it on camera, I am gonna go ahead and do these final steps on camera, even though it's not really the foundation routine, but it's still kind of like face products, and they're all affordable and some of my favorite products that I use. Okay, so I'm going in with my Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer, and I'm gonna be taking my JH02 bronzer brush. I love both of these together. I use the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer for a very, very long time, non-stop. And then I started using the Hoola bronzer, which is my more high-end product because that is definitely not a drugstore product. But this is literally all I would use. As you can see, I'm not joking when I say that. Like, this bronzer is a shiz. I know for some people it doesn't work, it's a little too like light, but I feel like for my complexion, it's the perfect amount of like warmth and cool. It's like right in between. So I feel like it gives me a very natural bronze look. It doesn't give me a very intense, like looking super nasty and muddy. I feel like this just kind of gives the warmth that I need. We did bronzer. We're gonna go ahead and go in with Milani Luminoso. This is one of my holy grail drugstore blushes. It actually is my holy grail. And we're gonna be taking my brush and we're just gonna be applying it right here. Do you see how beautiful it blends with that foundation? Like, I'm telling you, foundations don't play any games. Just love it. I think I'm gonna go really ham with my blush today. Feeling it. And I like how just like, it's the perfect color for me. I feel like it's not too pink where it's like, oh my God, it looks so fake, but it's not too like light where it's like I'm building for like ages. I feel like it really complements my complexion perfectly. Now here's an extra step that I like to do. So I'm gonna take my Airspun powder and I'm going to go in back with my sponge and we are going to kind of cut. So because we're doing really snatched drugstore makeup, I do want to go in and kind of cut these cheeks. I feel like whenever I use the sponge, I can really get that powder exactly where I want it to go and looking very defined. I feel like when I'm using a brush, I kind of have to use more powder to go ahead and kind of cut and sharpen those edges. And I feel like the powder doesn't stick on as well as it sticks on with the sponge. So the last thing I like to do when I go in and carve out my blush is I kind of like to round it. So do you see how I just rounded it? I cupped it up. I feel like me cupping it up kind of helps that blush stay up here like that. Like it really gives it that nice edge as opposed to it going downward. I used to just literally kind of just cut it and it would go downwards and I felt like my face was sagging down. So what I like to do when I do go in and bake and just kind of like clean up and sharpen the edges of my blush, I like to go and cup it up here so that it kind of like tightens everything back up. So I'm gonna take a little bit more blush and just like lightly dust off the leftover. You don't need to actually go into the blush. I shouldn't have said that. You just take whatever you have left over on your brush and just kind of use that leftover and just kind of cup it a little bit more so that it really kind of gives it that really nice whoop. So that's something that I like to do. Also, it really depends on your face shape because that's another thing that will define how you're gonna cup it. I know that for me, when I'm smiling, I smile like that. So that's why I like to have the blush go that way. So now that we have left the bake on our cheeky cheeks, we are gonna go ahead and dust it off. And I'm gonna take the same Morphe brush that I used to dust off all my bake. And this is the M433. And I'm just gonna do the same thing. Blend it out in circular motions best as you can so that you can really kind of get that good blend. So once we dusted that off, we're gonna go in with a bigger fluffy brush. I'm just gonna be taking a foundation brush that already has foundation. This is the Tarte Kabuki. And I'm gonna be blending like that. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to our highlights. So because the face is mainly matte right now, I definitely want to bring back a little bit of a glow into the skin. So I'm gonna be using two highlighters. I'm gonna be using my Maybelline Master Chrome Highlight in the shade Molten Gold, one of my favorites. I'm also gonna be using my Catrice Liquid Metal eyeshadow. This is an eyeshadow, but I use it as a highlight and it's so beautiful. So we're going to be going in with my Milani blush. I always do this. We're going to be going in with my Milani brush. I always say blush because I think of Milani Luminoso. Milani brush. And we're gonna be taking a little bit of some spray. I'm gonna be using my MAC Fix Plus Gold Light. And this is just to kind of give it that wet effect. So as you guys know, these highlighters are really nice and bam in your face, but I feel like when you have a matte foundation, you definitely want to give them that wet feel. So we're going to be going in with both of them, and I just kind of like to pat it and spray the brush first, then go in with the highlighters or highlight. You don't have to use both of them. And then the last thing I like to do when I like to get that really wet finish, you want to spray it at a distance like that and kind of let the brush do its thing, and then you go in and target that. And it really gives you like a bam highlight. So what I like to do, another little tip for highlight, something that I've been really into lately because I feel like I used to be really into that highlight from here to like all the way around here, but I'm not really into that anymore. I feel like it looks like way too much and like it's not cute for me, at least like on my complexion, because I do have texture. So I mainly love this brush, the Milani brush, because it targets it right here. So I just go in and really pat it down there. I find that me patting it when I do wet my brush so much helps it really give it that intensity. Whatever I do have left over on the brush, then I kind of go and start to like swipe it this way. So it kind of gradually fades upward, but it's not the same intensity. So it has a fade in intensity so that when you're looking at it, it's not like, oh my God, it looks like just a line of highlight. It looks like a diffused effect going upward. And the leftover of that side, I like to go in the tip of my nose and just kind of give it a little bit of a shine. So that was the highlight. Living. These two are definitely some you should pick up at your local Ulta. I know they have Catrice at Ulta. Pick up this highlight, well, this eyeshadow in We Are the Champagne. So Molten Gold by Maybelline is a fierce one, especially for my Latinas. Like, okay, so now we're gonna finish off the face with some setting spray. It's taken me such a long time to find like my perfect ideal setting spray at the drugstore. Because let's face it, Urban Decay has the best setting spray of all time for high-end makeup. I discovered one that's even way more affordable. So this is the e.l.f. Matte Magic Mist and Set. This one is absolutely stunning and amazing. It makes my makeup really wear matte and it makes it stay on all day, like all day. And this is $3 at Walmart. $3, people. I've also tried the NYX Cosmetics matte setting spray. That one didn't work for me at all. Like, it wasn't even that it caused any irritation or anything. It just literally didn't do shit for my skin. So I discovered this one and I've really been a big fan. I feel like e.l.f. Cosmetics makes some really great stuff. I feel like with them, sometimes it can be like a hit or miss. It's either really, really good or really, really shitty. But this setting spray for my oily skin girls at the drugstore is really nice stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and set my entire face, especially when you're doing a look that you want to just last you the entire day or the entire night. You wanna make sure you lock it in with setting spray. Setting spray and primer just make the biggest of the difference. You could have the best foundation on, but if you don't have those things that are really gonna guard it and hold it down for the foundation, it can fall apart really quickly. So let's go ahead and spray this. I like to just kind of spray. Well, first I do like a test run spray to make sure that it's gonna spray evenly and it's not just gonna like squirt on my face and ruin my makeup, because that has happened with me. So I'm just gonna go in. And what I like about this setting spray is that as soon as I apply it, it just like sticks on. So I really love the e.l.f. Mist Magic Matte Setting Spray. This stuff is great. And for $3, I mean, that's pretty freaking awesome. Okay, so this is the completed makeup look. I really hope that you guys enjoyed watching this current drugstore foundation routine. I feel like I'm ready to like conquer the day because I feel like I look like that bitch. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. I will have all the products I used today in my description box so that you guys can go ahead and check them out for yourself. And if you enjoyed watching this, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. It lets me know to continue doing these type of videos. And if you're new to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe. I would love for you to become a member family here on YouTube because I wouldn't want you guys to miss my videos for the world. As you can see, they're the best, so don't miss any of them. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you are notified every single time that I upload new videos, because I also know YouTube can be shady, so let's not let that shadiness get between us. So I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon for a brand new video. Bye, guys.